Have you ever noticed buildings often skip the 13th floor? You step into an elevator, you see 11, then 12, and then it jumps straight to 14. No error, no missing button. So why do buildings pretend the number 13 never existed? Today, we're digging into a small but strange detail you've probably seen many times. Buildings skipping the 13th floor aren't malfunctioning. They're designed that way. And the reason isn't engineering. It's belief, psychology, and tradition. Number 1, triskaidekaphobia, the fear of 13. The fear of the number 13 has a name. It's called triskaidekaphobia. For many people, the number 13 is associated with bad luck, betrayal, or misfortune. Not because of math, but because of stories passed down over time. One of the most common examples comes from Western religious tradition. At the Last Supper, there were 13 people at the table. Jesus and his 12 disciples. The 13th was Judas, the one associated with betrayal. Over centuries, this story became deeply embedded in cultural memory. The number itself began to feel suspicious, not dangerous in a literal sense, but uncomfortable. That discomfort matters more than logic. It influences decisions quietly without people realizing it. It shows up in hesitation, not panic. In avoidance, not fear. In design choices made just to be safe. And once enough people share it, the belief becomes self-reinforcing. Even people who say they don't believe in superstition often pause when the number appears. A slight hesitation, a quiet reaction. That reaction is what designers and developers pay attention to. Number 2, history, how the skipping started. When tall buildings began appearing in large numbers in the early 20th century, something unexpected happened. Developers noticed resistance to certain floors. Apartments labeled as the 13th floor were harder to rent. Office spaces were less desirable. Hotel rooms stayed empty longer. Nothing was wrong with the space itself. The issue was the number on the door. Potential tenants would ask questions. Some refused outright. Others requested different floors after viewing the unit. A few simply walked away. The hesitation was small, but consistent. By the 1920s and 1930s, during the early skyscraper boom, this pattern became clear. So developers adapted. Instead of fighting superstition, they worked around it. The 13th floor wasn't removed. It was renamed. Sometimes it became floor 14, sometimes 12A. Sometimes it was labeled as a mechanical or utility level. Over time, this workaround stopped feeling like a workaround. It became normal. What started as a practical decision slowly solidified into tradition. Number 3, real estate and market psychology. Real estate isn't just about buildings. It's about how people feel inside them. Developers, landlords, and hotel operators all rely on comfort and perception. If a space feels off, people hesitate. That hesitation costs money. In markets where superstition is common, labeled 13th floors often attract less interest. Listings stay active longer. Buyers ask more questions. Renters choose other options. Some people request a different unit after learning the floor number. Others negotiate harder, citing vague concerns. A few simply move on without explaining why. The reasons vary, but the pattern repeats. Small reactions add up at scale. Renaming a floor is cheap. Leaving it labeled as 13 can be expensive. From a business standpoint, the decision is simple. Reducing perceived risk improves occupancy. Higher comfort leads to faster sales. Faster sales mean better returns. Some market observations suggest buildings that skip the 13th floor perform better in superstition-aware regions. Not because the building is safer, but because people feel safer. Number 4, how the 13th floor gets hidden. In most buildings, the 13th floor still exists physically. It's not removed from the structure. No concrete is missing. No space is erased. It's hidden through labeling. The most common method is elevator numbering. The buttons jump directly from 12 to 14. To most people, that jump goes unnoticed. They assume the numbering is normal. Few stop to question it. Other buildings use alternatives. You might see 12A instead of 13. Some label it as M for mechanical. Others rename it as an amenities level. Occasionally the floor is given a neutral name, something functional, something unremarkable, anything that avoids the number itself. To the occupant, the number disappears. To the building, nothing changes. This can sometimes create small complications. Delivery staff may notice odd floor counts. Emergency responders rely on maps instead of buttons. Maintenance teams know the real layout. But for daily users, the illusion works. The number 13 quietly vanishes. Number 5. Cultural and global variations. The fear of 13 isn't universal. It's cultural. In the United States, Canada, and parts of Europe, skipping the 13th floor is common. Many major buildings follow this practice without explanation. Elevator panels, floor plans, and signage all reflect this subtle adjustment. New York City has numerous residential and commercial towers where the 13th label is missing entirely. It's so common that most people barely notice it. But in other parts of the world, different numbers carry the same weight. In many East Asian cultures, the number 4 is avoided. Its pronunciation sounds similar to the word for death. In some regions, this leads to skipping floors labeled 4, 14, 24, or even 44. As a result, buildings may skip the 4th floor instead, or avoid numbers that contain it. It's treated with the same caution and care as the Western fear of 13. In Italy, the number 17 is often considered unlucky. Some buildings skip it entirely. Hotels, apartments, and office towers all adjust numbering accordingly. The pattern is consistent. The number changes. The behavior stays the same. Architecture adapts to belief. Human psychology shapes design across continents. The invisible influence of superstition travels silently through the structures we live and work in. Number 6. Exceptions and changing attitudes. Not every building follows the rule. Some famous structures openly include a labeled 13th floor. The Empire State Building is one example. So is the Flatiron Building. These iconic buildings defy superstition while remaining fully functional. In these cases, tradition was ignored or deliberately challenged. It became a subtle statement about modernity, confidence, or simply practicality. In some modern developments, the presence of a 13th floor is treated as a badge of pride, almost a rejection of superstition. Architects and developers sometimes highlight it as a quirky feature, even in marketing materials. Some residents take pride in living on the 13th floor. They see it as bold or ironic, a conversation starter, a way to stand out in a sea of conventional buildings. Younger generations, in particular, tend to dismiss the fear as outdated. They view it as a relic of the past, a superstition that no longer dictates their choices or daily lives. Still, many developers don't take the risk. Even if some people don't care, others still do. And real estate decisions are made for the majority, not the exception. Because perception drives comfort, and comfort drives revenue. In the end, superstition quietly continues to influence modern architecture, even if fewer people consciously acknowledge it. The missing 13th floor isn't about structure, it's about perception. What began as superstition slowly became a design norm, passed down through decades of habit. Belief, psychology, and money all leave their mark on our buildings. Even in the sleekest, most modern skyscrapers, these quiet decisions linger. A simple number can influence comfort, choices, and feelings without anyone noticing. It's a subtle reminder that culture and psychology shape our spaces as much as steel and concrete. Superstition quietly guides design, even when few believe in it consciously. So next time you ride an elevator, pause for a moment, look at the numbers, and notice what isn't there. The missing floor tells a story hidden in plain sight. It's a small gap, but one full of history, tradition, and human behavior.